This is the story of how the soul of Brother Modestino's father appeared to Padre Pio and what that sacred encounter teaches us about the journey every soul must make. The mountains of southern Italy hold within their ancient slopes a network of small villages where time seems to move differently, where faith is woven into the fabric of daily life as naturally as bread is broken at the table. One such village was Pietrelcina, a place of narrow stone streets and humble homes, where the earth was hard, but the people's devotion ran deep. It was here that two families lived as neighbors, their lives intertwined in ways that would echo into eternity. The Foggione family and the Fucci family knew each other well. Anna Fucci, a woman of quiet strength, had grown up alongside Francesco Foggione, the boy who would become Padre Pio. They had been the same age, playing in the fields of Piana Romana, where both families owned small plots of land. As children, they had watched the same sunsets paint the hills gold, had attended the same church where ancient prayers rose like incense. When Francesco returned to Pietrelcina as a young man between 1908 and 1916, struggling with illness and uncertain of his path, he would sometimes help the Fucci family in their fields. He would watch over Anna's children while she worked, a quiet presence who seemed even then to carry something otherworldly in his eyes. Among those children was a boy named Damiano Fucci, born in 1917. From his earliest memories, Damiano heard stories about the remarkable young friar who had once been his mother's childhood friend. Padre Pio became almost a legend in the household, a figure of mystery and holiness, someone who seemed to walk between worlds. The stories fascinated young Damiano. They spoke of a man who bore the wounds of Christ, who could see into souls, who lived in such intimacy with God that heaven itself seemed to bend toward him. As Damiano grew into young manhood, the call to religious life stirred within his own heart. During his military service in Rome, that call became impossible to ignore. In 1940, at the age of 23, he made the journey to San Giovanni Rotondo, climbing the winding road up Monte Gargano to the Capuchin friary where Padre Pio lived. It was a pilgrimage that would define the rest of his life. When Damiano told Padre Pio that he felt called to join the Benedictine order, the older friar shook his head with a knowing smile. This was not his path, Padre Pio explained. If Damiano went to Rome to join the Benedictines, something terrible would happen. 3 years later, that prophecy proved true when a Benedictine abbot and brother were killed by robbers in Rome. Instead, Padre Pio told Damiano to stay in San Giovanni Rotondo and become a Capuchin. When the young man agreed, taking the name Brother Modestino, Padre Pio looked at him with an expression that mixed affection and expectation. "Countrymen," he said, "do not make me look bad." But he also offered encouragement, words that Brother Modestino would carry with him through all the trials ahead. "Brother Modestino, don't worry. I will always be near you, and the gaze of St. Francis from heaven will always be upon you." After completing his novitiate, Brother Modestino was assigned to the monastery in Pietrelcina, returning to his hometown as a friar. The work was demanding, the life austere, but he embraced it with the fervor of one who knew he was exactly where God wanted him. Yet even in the midst of his duties, the bond between Brother Modestino and Padre Pio remained strong. Whenever possible, he would make the journey back to San Giovanni Rotondo, walking the mountain paths to spend time with his spiritual father. It was during these years that Brother Modestino's own father decided to make a pilgrimage to see Padre Pio. The elder Fucci had watched his son transform from a boy who heard stories about the Holy Friar to a man who walked in that same friar's footsteps. He wanted to meet this Padre Pio for himself, to seek his blessing, to perhaps understand what it was that drew so many souls to that remote mountain monastery. The visit was profound. Brother Modestino's father spent time in prayer, attended Padre Pio's Mass, and finally went to confession. What passed between them in that sacred space of the confessional, no one else could know. But when the older man emerged, there was something changed in his bearing, a kind of peace mixed with solemnity. Before he left to return to Pietrelcina, he sought out Padre Pio one more time. "Father," he asked, his voice carrying the weight of a question everyone eventually asks, "when will we see each other again?" Padre Pio's response was simple, but it carried within it the gravity of prophecy. "We will see each other again in the afterlife. Say hello to our country." The words hung in the air like the moment before thunder. Brother Modestino's father nodded slowly, perhaps not fully understanding, perhaps understanding too well. He returned to Pietrelcina with those words echoing in his mind. Brother Modestino heard about the visit when he saw his father shortly after. The older man was in bed, running a fever, but he recounted everything that had happened at San Giovanni Rotondo. When he repeated Padre Pio's final words, Brother Modestino felt something cold settle in his chest. "We will see each other again in the afterlife." What did it mean? Was it merely a spiritual metaphor, a way of saying they would meet in heaven eventually, as all the faithful hope to do? Or was it something more immediate, more urgent? That night, Brother Modestino struggled to sleep. The words kept turning over in his mind, refusing to release him. There was something in the way his father had spoken them, something in the memory of Padre Pio's expression that suggested a knowledge beyond ordinary farewell. The answer came at dawn. His cousin Cosimo arrived at the monastery, breathless from running, his face drawn with grief. "Your father," he managed to say. "Last night at midnight, he tried to get out of bed, desperate for air. A stroke took him. He's gone." In that moment of devastating clarity, Brother Modestino understood. Padre Pio had known. He had seen what was coming, had prepared the older man as best he could. "We will see each other again in the afterlife." It was not a distant promise, but an immediate prophecy. Death was already standing in the room during that confession, waiting its appointed hour. Brother Modestino wept, but even through his tears, there was a strange sense of awe. His father had been given a gift that few receive, the knowledge that his time was short, the opportunity to make his peace with God, to receive the sacraments with full awareness of their necessity. Padre Pio, with his mystical sight, had guided a soul to the threshold of eternity and ensured he did not cross it unprepared. But grief still demanded its due. As soon as he could, Brother Modestino made the journey back to San Giovanni Rotondo, his heart heavy with loss and uncertainty. What awaited his father now? Where was his soul in this moment? The question burned within him, demanding an answer that only Padre Pio might provide. When Brother Modestino arrived at the monastery, Padre Pio received him with the tender compassion of one who knows sorrow intimately. The friar embraced him, offered his condolences, and listened as the younger man poured out his grief. Then came the question that Brother Modestino could not hold back any longer. "Father, is my father in heaven?" Padre Pio's response was immediate, but it was not the simple reassurance Brother Modestino had hoped for. "He was the son of guilt," Padre Pio said quietly, using an old phrase that carried theological weight. "He has to serve his sentence." The words struck Brother Modestino like a blow, but they also brought a strange relief. His father was not lost. He was not in hell, suffering eternal separation from God. But neither had he bypassed the purification that most souls require. He was in purgatory, that mysterious realm where the saved undergo the cleansing that makes them fit for the presence of absolute holiness. Padre Pio's gift allowed him to see what remained hidden from others. He could perceive souls in their in-between state, could sense the purifying fire that burned away the dross of earthly attachment and imperfection. When he looked into the spiritual realm and sought Brother Modestino's father, he saw a soul undergoing its necessary transformation. The man had died in God's friendship, but the stains of venial sin, the consequences of past faults, the attachments that still clung to him. All these required purification before he could stand in the unveiled light of divine glory. Brother Modestino, though his heart ached with the knowledge of his father's suffering, recognized the mercy in this truth. Purgatory is not punishment in the sense of divine vengeance. It is the soul's own recognition of its unworthiness, its passionate desire to be made clean, to be worthy of the love it now sees with perfect clarity. The souls in purgatory suffer, yes, but theirs is the suffering of longing, of purification, of a process that has only one destination: heaven itself. "Father," Brother Modestino asked, his voice trembling with hope, "can I tell my family to have the Gregorian Masses celebrated in his suffrage?" The Gregorian Masses are an ancient tradition in the Church, a series of 30 Masses offered on consecutive days for a single soul in purgatory. The practice dates back to St. Gregory the Great in the 6th century, who ordered such Masses for a monk named Eustace. After the 30th Mass, Eustace appeared in a vision, radiant with joy, announcing his entrance into heaven. Since then, the faithful have trusted in the particular power of these Masses to aid the suffering souls. Padre Pio nodded. "If your family is in a position to do it, just say it." With that permission, Brother Modestino returned to Pietrelcina with a sacred mission. He would not simply mourn his father, he would fight for him with the only weapons the living possess: prayer, sacrifice, and the infinite merits of Christ's sacrifice made present in the Mass. The weeks that followed were a testimony to filial love, transformed into spiritual warfare. Brother Modestino arranged for the Gregorian Masses to begin, but he did not stop there. He went back to the village and the countryside for the questua, the traditional begging rounds that Capuchin friars made to gather alms. Every step he took through those familiar streets, he offered for his father's soul. Every effort, every mortification, every small suffering of body or spirit, he united to the redemptive suffering of Christ and offered it up for the purification of his father. In the Catholic understanding of the communion of saints, there exists a mystical exchange between the Church militant on earth, the Church suffering in purgatory, and the Church triumphant in heaven. The living can help the dead through their prayers and sacrifices. The dead, once in heaven, can intercede for the living. This is not magic or superstition, but a profound truth about the nature of the body of Christ, which spans both time and eternity. Brother Modestino understood this with the clarity of faith. His father could not help himself. The souls in purgatory cannot merit anything new, cannot add to their sanctification through their own efforts. They are entirely dependent on the mercy of God and the charity of the living. But the living can offer treasures of infinite value on their behalf. Every Mass, every rosary, every act of self-denial done in love, every indulgence gained and applied to their suffering, all of this creates a spiritual currency that eases their purification and hastens their entrance into joy. The months passed slowly. Brother Modestino continued his prayers, continued his sacrifices, continued to hold his father in his heart before God. He did not know how long the purification would take. Purgatory does not operate according to earthly time. Its duration is measured not in days or years, but in the depth of cleansing required, in the soul's preparation to see God face to face. Then came the message that changed everything. One day, Padre Pio called for Fra Giovanni Iamarone, one of Brother Modestino's confreres in the novitiate. He gave him a simple but profound assignment. Tell Brother Modestino that his father is safe. He was saved by his prayers and his intentions. Now he's in heaven. When Brother Modestino heard these words, he experienced something beyond mere relief. It was a moment of spiritual triumph, a confirmation that love is stronger than death, that the prayers of the faithful truly do reach beyond the grave and accomplish what they intend. His father had completed his purification. The suffering was over. The soul that had entered the cleansing fire of God's love had emerged transformed, radiant, ready at last for the eternal embrace. This encounter between Padre Pio and the soul of Brother Modestino's father illuminates several profound truths that lie at the heart of Catholic faith. First, it confirms the reality of purgatory. In an age when many have lost sight of this doctrine, when even some Christians treat it as medieval superstition, here is a concrete testimony from a man whose holiness and mystical gifts the Church herself has recognized. Purgatory is not a second chance for those who rejected God, nor is it a temporary hell where souls suffer divine wrath. It is a hospital, not a prison. It is the place where those who died in friendship with God, but not yet perfectly purified, undergo the transformation that makes them capable of enduring the infinite light of divine glory. Saint Catherine of Genoa, herself a mystic who experienced visions of purgatory, wrote that she could imagine no joy on earth greater than the joy of a soul in purgatory. This seems paradoxical, given that these souls suffer, but their suffering is entirely different from the despair of hell. They suffer from longing, from the passionate desire to be with God, from the acute awareness of their own unworthiness, yet they also possess absolute certainty of their salvation. They know with unshakable faith that their suffering has an end, and that end is heaven itself. There is only one door out of purgatory, and it opens to eternal joy. Second, this story demonstrates the power of prayer for the dead and the reality of the communion of saints. Brother Modestino did not simply resign himself to his father's suffering. He engaged in active spiritual combat on his father's behalf. Through the Gregorian Masses, through his prayers, through his sacrifices offered in union with Christ's sacrifice, he participated in his father's purification. The Church has always taught that our prayers for the dead are efficacious, that they truly help the suffering souls, that they are acts of charity more powerful than any earthly assistance we might render. St. Thomas Aquinas put it with characteristic clarity: "We do not pray for those in hell, they cannot be helped. We do not pray for those in heaven, they need nothing. Therefore, we pray for those in between, those being purified in love." This is not merely pious sentiment, it is the lived reality of the Church's faith, confirmed by 2,000 years of unbroken tradition, witnessed by countless saints and mystics, and verified in stories like this one. The Gregorian Masses themselves represent a beautiful expression of this truth. 30 consecutive days of offering the infinite sacrifice of Calvary made present on the altar for a single suffering soul. Can we imagine a more powerful intercession? Each Mass is the entire mystery of redemption, Christ's love poured out for the salvation of the world, applied specifically to one soul's needs. The tradition holds that these Masses possess a special efficacy, not because there is magic in the number 30, but because they represent an extraordinary exercise of the Church's power to bind and loose, to open the treasures of Christ's merits and apply them where they are needed most. Third, this encounter reveals something about the nature of spiritual fatherhood and the bonds that connect souls across the veil of death. Padre Pio had never met Brother Modestino's father before that final confession, yet he took responsibility for that soul, prepared him for death, and then revealed his fate to the grieving son. This is what spiritual fathers do. They guide not only the living but also pray for the dead. They exercise a ministry that extends beyond the boundaries of earthly life, recognizing that their care for souls does not end when the body expires. Padre Pio himself often spoke about his encounters with souls from purgatory. He claimed that as many souls of the dead came up the road to the monastery as souls of the living. They would appear to him in various ways, sometimes visible, sometimes sensed spiritually, always seeking the same thing: prayers, masses, help in their purification. He did not fear these encounters. Instead, he welcomed them as opportunities to exercise charity toward those who could no longer help themselves, those whom he called the poor souls, in recognition of their absolute dependence on the prayers of others. In one famous incident, An old man appeared to Padre Pio in his cell late at night. The friar was startled, wondering how anyone could have entered the locked monastery at that hour. The man identified himself as Pietro di Mauro, who had died in a fire in that very room in 1908, when the building had been used as a poorhouse. He explained that he was in purgatory and needed just one mass to be freed. Padre Pio promised to offer mass for him the next morning. Days later, when other friars checked the records at the town hall, they found everything exactly as the spirit had described. A man named Pietro di Mauro had indeed died in a fire in that room on the date given. Such encounters were not rare for Padre Pio. They were part of his daily spiritual life, as normal to him as his prayers or his mass. He lived with one foot in this world and one in the next, his mystical gifts allowing him to perceive realities that remain hidden from most of us. And he used these gifts not for his own glory, but in service to souls, both living and dead, helping each one find their way to God. Fourth, this story teaches us about mercy and judgment. Brother Modestino's father was described as the son of guilt, meaning he had died with sins that required purgation. Yet he was also described as saved, as one who would certainly reach heaven. This is the mystery of divine mercy. God's justice demands that sin be purified, that the soul be made holy. But God's mercy ensures that for those who die in his friendship, that purification will be completed. Nothing can snatch these souls from God's hand. Their salvation is certain, even as their purification continues. The Catholic Church has always held these two truths in tension: the absolute necessity of holiness to see God, and the infinite mercy that works to produce that holiness even after death. Purgatory is where these truths meet. It is God's mercy providing what his justice requires. It is the soul's own desire for purity meeting God's desire to give it. It is the painful but hope-filled process by which love burns away everything that is not itself love. Finally, this encounter reminds us of our own mortality and our own need for purification. Every one of us, unless we achieve extraordinary sanctity in this life, will likely pass through purgatory. The prospect should not terrify us. Instead, it should motivate us to pursue holiness now, to cooperate with God's purifying grace in this life, so that the purification after death might be shorter, less intense. As Padre Pio himself said, when asked how to avoid purgatory, by accepting everything from God's hand. Offering everything up to him with love and thanksgiving will enable us to pass from our deathbed to paradise. The saints understood that purgatory is not primarily an afterlife concern, but a present reality. The purification of the soul begins now, in this life, through prayer, fasting, confession, self-denial, and the acceptance of suffering. If we allow God to purify us here, through the trials and crosses he permits, through the grace of the sacraments, through the slow death to self that is the Christian life, then we may need little or no purgatory after death. The more we die to ourselves now, the less we will need to be purified then. Brother Modestino understood this profoundly. After Padre Pio's death in 1968, he was transferred to San Giovanni Rotondo and became the community's porter, the doorkeeper who received visitors. For decades, he spent hours each day in prayer before the Blessed Sacrament, offered his life for sinners, and assured pilgrims of Padre Pio's heavenly intercession. When he died in 2011 at the age of 94, the newsletter from his provincial minister described his life as one of continuous prayer and sacrifice. His experience with his father's soul had taught him the value of such offerings. He had seen, through his father's story, how the prayers and sacrifices of the living truly do help the dead. In 2018, the beatification cause for Brother Modestino was opened, recognizing the holiness of his life and the possibility that he too might one day be recognized as a saint. If that day comes, it will be a testament to the spiritual legacy of Padre Pio, who guided so many souls not only in life, but also prepared them for the journey through death and beyond. The story of Brother Modestino's father appearing to Padre Pio is more than a historical curiosity or a supernatural anecdote. It is a window into the deepest truths of our faith. It shows us that death is not the end of relationship, that love continues beyond the grave, that the Church truly is a communion of saints spanning earth, purgatory, and heaven. It teaches us that our prayers matter, that they have real power, that they can reach into the realm of the dead and bring comfort, assistance, and ultimately liberation to souls who cannot help themselves. It calls us to remember our own dead, to pray for them regularly, to have masses offered for them, to gain indulgences on their behalf. How many souls might be languishing in purgatory right now, waiting for prayers that never come because we have forgotten them? How many fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, friends and benefactors might be suffering a purification that our prayers could shorten? The Church has never abandoned this responsibility. From the earliest centuries, Christians have prayed for their dead, offered sacrifices for them, carved prayers for them on the walls of catacombs. This is not superstition. It is faith in action, love extended beyond death, charity exercised toward those who are truly poor because they can do nothing to help themselves. And it assures us that when our own time comes, when we cross that threshold and face our own judgment, we will not be alone. The prayers of the living will reach us. The masses offered for our souls will be like beams of light cutting through the purifying fire. The love we showed others in life will return to us through their prayers for us in death. We are bound together, the living and the dead, in a communion that death cannot break, a family that stretches across both sides of eternity. Padre Pio once said, "I see so many souls from purgatory that I'm no longer afraid of them." May we live with that same faith, that same charity, that same confidence in the communion of saints. May we pray faithfully for the dead, knowing that one day we will join them and will depend on the prayers of those we leave behind. And may we strive for holiness now in this life, allowing God to purify us through grace so that when death comes, we might need only the briefest purification before we see Him face to face. If this story moved you, consider liking the video and subscribing to Holy Grail for more spiritual encounters and afterlife revelations. Together, let us walk the path that leads beyond this world into the eternal embrace of the God who is love itself.